privileged to have extremely long-standing, long-tenured workforce. And so there is a huge benefit to that, of course, but with that comes challenges, because a workforce with an extremely long tenure has a way of doing things that is many, many years and a lot of history. And so finding that, it's been my job, as I see it, has been finding the balance to honor that existing culture and history, but helping the organization evolve, because these are different times than anything that have ever been experienced before. And so some of the very specific areas that we've looked at is really evolving the culture from a continuous improvement perspective. So how it's all about becoming more efficient, right? One of the ways in which we compete in the market is we've got to be the lowest healthcare provider. We've got to have the lowest administrative costs. We've got to have the greatest service delivery, and obviously the greatest network. But at this time, given some of the shifts in the market, becoming most efficient is critical for us. And that's not necessarily perhaps been a core competency in the past from a pure cost perspective. And so how do you introduce continuous improvement, not just as a tool, but as a culture evolution, right? Because with that comes a different way of thinking, a different way of leading. And so that is one aspect of how do you deploy it, where do you deploy it, how do you create stories that you evolve throughout the organization to create the energy as a way to, again, this is a solution to help solve the problem that you either realize that you have and don't know how to solve, or didn't even realize that you have, but let me tell you, here's a solution, and it's going to make your life that much better. So that's one way. Our values are great values. Much like any other organization, values are like motherhood and apple pie. You're going to have a really hard time arguing that any one of them is not the right value to have. But when you're trying to understand where you are really trying to get at, this is a great opportunity to evolve or reframe your values so that it is driving specific behaviors that are trying to get you where you need to go. And the third component, I think, that can drive, I would say two more that are helping drive the culture in a time of crazy transformation, is what are the competencies and capabilities that historically exist, and what are the new competencies and capabilities that are required? And how do you shift your sourcing strategy, your talent development strategy to really zero in on critical competencies that are most important right now, that perhaps were not as critical a year ago? And how do you continue to have conversations around that? And how do you reward those specific competencies? And so reward is really that last piece that I would say is really critical. When you're rewarding the accountability for the behaviors and the competencies that you are seeking to drive to make sure that you're moving the organization, inevitably that starts shifting culture.